Somewhere, sometime, I either heard or read someone say that a brush is a stick with hair on the end. That's like calling a rocket to the moon a controlled explosion, or a pen a tube filled with ink, or a sword a pointy metal stick. Accurate, and yet it takes away a lot of the magic, because a brush is a friend. It's a companion accompanying you through many years of struggle and hopefully a few wins. Brushes can or should be with you for a very long time. I'm not sure I can make an interesting talk about brushes, but what I do say might be useful to somebody. This is about my experience with brushes. Other painters will probably disagree, and that's fine. What works for them works for them. When I first started painting, I listened to a lot of advice about various aspects of painting, and brushes were one of them. There are as many opinions about painting as there are painters, and you know what they say about opinions. They're like, well, everybody has one, including me. Hi, my name is Jeff. I've been painting for 35 years in oil and watercolor, and welcome to my studio. There's three things you need in order to paint: a supporter surface, paint, and brushes. A support can be anything from stretched canvas to prime linen, cotton, wood, prime paper. You can even paint on plastic or glass. And paint is a topic all unto itself. I mean, paint is a fickle mistress, seductive, alluring, that inevitably, eventually dries up. I'm talking about brushes and why a brush is important. What goes into the decision to use a certain brush? A brush is quite simply the vehicle by which you transfer paint to a surface. Brushwork creates texture and interest. What brush you choose and how it's done will illustrate your style. Brushwork is also what separates a painting from, say, a photograph or a print. A guy I used to paint with once gave me some advice. He told me to think 3 times before laying a brush stroke, and then do it once, quickly. And I turned to him and I said, Tom, fuck, I'd never finish a painting then. The same guy said I should start every painting with the biggest brush I own and work my way down to the smaller brushes and then use those sparingly. And that's some good advice that I have used over the years. It's a good guide. But not always. I don't always use it. A brush for oil painting has a long handle, and this is so that the painter can get some distance between themselves and the surface. It can be handled in a variety of ways. You can hold it like a pencil. You can hold it sideways and drag across the surface. You can scumble with it. You can poke with it. You can do whatever your hands can do with this brush, you can do on the painting surface. And an oil brush can be made from a variety of materials, all of which have their own properties. Some are made of pig bristles, some are of badger hair. There's synthetic brushes and there's natural brushes. This particular one is made out of chunking bristle, which is basically pig hair. Watercolor brushes have shorter handles. The ability of a watercolor brush to hold water and thus color is important. It's also important that it points well. Supposedly the best watercolor brushes are made of pure Kolinsky sable, but watercolor brushes can be made from a variety of materials, just like oil brushes. They can be squirrel, mongoose, synthetic nylon, etc., etc. What I'm not going to talk about are the various shapes of brushes, because I mean, anybody can get that by a simple internet search. So I'm going to assume a certain knowledge and vocabulary with this video. For oils, I use long flats. This is a long flat, and this is a long flat. They wear well, and you can create a nice variety of strokes with them. With the flat, you can cover an area quickly, or you can draw a line with one, with the edge. They could take quite a lot of abuse and last a really long time. Other brush shapes I use are rounds and liners. Once I was convinced by another painter that a round could do anything that a flat can do. So I used rounds for quite a long time until I finally and eventually realized, no, I need flats. And I use both flats and rounds for oil. Liners are long and narrow, and they're good for detail or fine lines. I don't have many of them, but I find I can't live without a few. There's one right here. That's a liner. This is a liner. You can see it's got a long, narrow point. For watercolor, I really only use rounds and liners. Watercolor brushes are, let's say they have a different personality from oil brushes. I think of oil brushes as being tough, willing to be pushed and splayed, and used roughly. A good oil brush is always willing to do whatever's asked of you. Of it, sorry, or die trying. Watercolor brushes, on the other hand, require a little more care. It's not that they're delicate, because they're not, but to achieve the best from a watercolor brush, you have to be more mindful. You know, always rinse it frequently when you're picking up color, and not just from a water bottle, but also try to run it under or rinse it under running water. Sometimes multiple times during a painting. There are so many different brands of brush makers. I can say that I've tried a rather large and expensive sample of different brands and brushes over the years. And after all that experimentation and lots of money, I've settled on just a few. These are the ones that I use. These are the ones I go to. For oils, I use Robert Simmons Signet in long flat. This is a chunking bristle that I find really useful. And over time, its bristles will splay. I think I got one here, a few here actually, kind of splayed out. They'll wear down, they'll become hard and stiff, but that's their charm, because they are useful throughout their life. And I've brushes, you know, right here in the studio, almost worn to the ferrule, and I'll draw upon them for certain effects. And when they're completely worn and it's just the ferrule, then I can use the ferrule to scratch into wet paint. And if the ferrule goes, it falls off, then I can use the wooden part of it to scratch into the paint too and create different effects. The second brand of brush I use is really, it's a brush maker. It's Rosemary and Company. And if that sounds like a romantic English brand, it is. Rosemary, and that's actually the owner's name. It's a real person. Makes a wide variety of brushes for painting. I mean, I have her catalog here someplace, and it's 99% brushes. You can get lost in there. It's brushes for everything: plein air painting, watercolor painting, acrylics, whatever. I looked for it and I couldn't find it, so I'm going to have to order another one. But from Rosemary, I like her Master's Choice long flats. It's, I believe, this one. Yep. And I'm experimenting with some of her softer brushes, like this one here. And I'm always spending money on their supplies. It never ends. There's a brand the Schmidmeister used for years called Langnickel. All the artists who followed him or idolized him bought Langnickels. They were, I think, a badger hair brush that was stiff enough to carry oil paint, and yet soft enough to blend with. Schmid talked about putting his brushes to bed every night. He would carefully rinse them with soap and water, and then he would take 2 pieces of cardboard and pinch it between there with a bulldog clip, and then hang them upside down from a laundry line in his studio. So that was so that they kept their shape, because if you basically didn't do that with Langnickels, they would start to go all over the place. At some point, Langnickel went out of business of making brushes, and particularly those brushes. And needless to say, painters were distraught. In stepped Rosemary of Rosemary and Co. And after much consultation with painters, including Schmid and Lipking, and repeated trial and error, she created a brush that replaced the famous Langnickel. I mean, painters do tend to really care about their brushes. For watercolors, after trying many brands, including the historic Winsor & Newton Series 7 that was apparently Queen Victoria approved, I settled on Winsor & Newton Scepter Gold Series 2. I mean, it's a synthetic, it's nylon, I think, and it suits me. It points well, it holds water well, it wears well, and it does not cost an absolute fortune like the Series 7 or the Kolinsky Sables. Brushes are an investment. I mean, they're not as expensive as paint usually, and when given a certain amount of care and feeding, they'll repay the painter with a long life. For years, I'd give an oil brush a good splash and rinse in OMS, wiping it down with paper towels, and until it was sort of clean, and then placing it in a jar, handle up, for it to dry. And that's it. Occasionally I'd stand at the sink with soap and water and go around and try to get them as clean as possible. But I can't remember the last time I actually did that. I mean, I just don't have the time. Then recently I saw a video by Kwang Ho where he talked about his care of Rosemary & Co. brushes. And I've been using his method instead. I'm hoping it does a better job of getting the paint that gets gummed up in the ferrule, stiffening the brush and changing its usefulness. What he does is he soaks his brushes in canola oil first. So when you're done with the brush, when you're done painting with the brush, you soak it in canola oil, then you wipe off the paint, and then it goes for a bath in the OMS, and more wiping until it's clean. And if you have to repeat the process, do that, and then I just let them dry. What's OMS? It's odorless mineral spirits, and it's not as strong as turpentine, and it's a good thinner for oil paint, and you can get it pretty much any hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever. For watercolor brushes, rinse them frequently underwater. I mean, until the water runs clear. Then give them a quick shake to point them out, and lay them flat to dry, and that's it. They'll give you years of service. Never throw away an old brush if you have the space to keep them. Brushes take on a personality and character. An old brush may have a few stray bristles that'll be perfect for certain effects, like grasses or weeds or branches and trees, something like that. Maybe an Old Faithful will let you splash thinned paint everywhere and not mind one bit. Or it could be so worn that you use it to scrub and push some heavy impasto around, not caring because it can take it. The brush can take it. My last piece of advice is to wear your brushes out. Paint and paint and paint and paint some more until that long flat of yours is a worn old character smiling back at you. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you support the arts, buy originals.